Now is the time to buy a new camper for as low as $99.95 or $99 a month. Holman Motors in Cincinnati has hundreds of trailers and all famous name brands to choose from. You can vacation in luxury with an RV from Holman Motors. Online at holmanrv.com.
This is a special podcast presentation from 700WLW.com. This is Sloan and Tracy on Demand.
Sloan and Tracy here, 700 WLW. What a tough day today. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, we like to laugh and joke around. And
no joking about this.
Nah, this isn't funny, and you get upset because and Sloaney, you know the story. I found out about 3 weeks ago that someone close to me was molested.
Yeah.
And it's just been bothering me. So when I see something with Paterno and Sandusky, it really hits home, and it's just tough because I don't like. I joke about every single thing. Everything's a joke. I've got my act. You guys know the act, but today let's just keep with the facts here.
I can make light of everything, even in death.
Yes,
but
not here.
I think what happened here is just so shocking and disgusting. And now there's even new allegations that are coming out. We'll get to within the next 20 minutes here on 700 WLW. Of course, we're talking about the scandal at Penn State University. It's unfair just to say this is Joe Paterno. Where he should be fired to go. But he is the figurehead of the college. And certainly he is not the only one to fall from this thing, nor should he be.
Yeah, I mean, look at Paterno. Started coaching at Penn State back in the 50s. You know who was president back then, Sloaney? Harry S. Truman.
Wow.
I mean, think about going back that far. And I mean, to have that job and then coaching for, since 1966 with Sandusky. Okay, he was with Sandusky for 30 years.
30 years.
Now, you cannot be that ignorant and think that this whole thing started about playing with little boys in 98. You cannot be that ignorant. When you are a coach, a head coach, and you have your assistant coach, you are around each other every single day. You're around each other more than you are your wife. So let's not, the 98 doesn't.
Either way, there is a deliberate, there's a deliberate deliberate cover-up.
No, without a doubt.
At the very, very least, there is a level of negligence from Coach Paterno that is indescribable. There are so many elements of this thing.
So many
that you have a hard time following. I know I did. I'm not embarrassed to say that yesterday. I'm like, well, okay, we got all these witnesses. You got I came across the timeline. Here's what I want to do this afternoon when we start the show. I want to read to you the timeline here. It's a little lengthy, but I think it's going to give you perspective when you go year by year, date by date, as to how all the pieces fit together that led up to the decision to not only get rid of Sandusky, but also Joe Paterno and administrators at the school and everything else. Okay, so if you probably heard part of this, but I'd be hard pressed to say most people did not read or hear the timeline as it began. So in 1969. Many people listening weren't born in 1969 when Jerry Sandusky started his coaching career at Penn State. In 77, he founded the Second Mile, started as a group foster home dedicated to helping troubled boys, and it became eventually a charity to help children with absent or dysfunctional families. That was in 77. In 1994, victim number 7 met Sandusky through the Second Mile program. He was about 10 years old. In 94-95, victim number 6 met Sandusky at a Second Mile picnic when he was 7 or 8 years old. A year later, 1995-96, victim number 5 meets him through the Second Mile program when he was 7 or 8 or second or third grade. A year later, 1996, victim number 4 at age 12 or 13 meets Sandusky during Second Mile. In 1996 to 1998, victim number 5 is taken to the locker rooms and showers at Penn State by Sandusky when he was 8 to 10 years old. January 1st, 1998, New Year's 1998, victim number 4 is listed along with Sandusky's wife as a member of his family party for the 1998 Outback Bowl. Later that year, victim number 6 is taken into the locker rooms and showers when he's 11 years old. When victim number 6 is dropped off at home in 1998, his hair is wet from showering with Sandusky. His mother reports the incident to university police, who start an investigation. Detective Ronald Schufflerer testifies that he and State College Police Detective Ralph Ralston, with the consent of victim number 6's mother, eavesdrops on 2 conversations she has with Coach Sandusky. Sandusky says he has done this with other boys, and victim number 6 mother tries to make him promise never to shower with a boy again, but he will not make that promise. At the end of the second conversation, Sandusky is told he cannot see victim number 6 anymore, this woman's young boy. One detective testifies that Sandusky said, as he listened to this conversation with another detective, quote, "I understand. I was wrong. I wish I could get forgiveness. I know I won't get it from you. I wish I were dead," end of quote. An investigator with the Pennsylvania Department of Public Welfare testified that he and a detective interviewed Sandusky and that Sandusky admitted to showering naked with victim number 6, admitting to hugging victim 6 while in the shower, and admits it was wrong. The case is then closed after the county DA decides there will be no criminal charges. That in 1998. The next year, in 1999, Sandusky retired from Penn State, but he is retired with emeritus status, which meant he had keys to the building and all the facilities, and even had an office on campus. December 28, 1999, victim number 4 is listed along with Sandusky's wife as a member of his family for the 1999 Alamo Bowl. Summer 2000, victim number 3 made Sandusky through the second mile when he is between 7th and 8th grade. In fall of 2000, a janitor named James Calhoun observed Sandusky in the showers of the football building with a young boy known as victim number 8, pinned up against the wall, performing oral sex on the boy. He tells the other janitorial staff immediately. The fellow employee cleans the showers and sees Sandusky and the boy, who he describes as being between the ages 11 and 13. Calhoun tells the other physical plant employees what he saw, including his supervisor. The supervisor lets him know who he should report the incident to. Calhoun was a temporary employee and never made a report. Never made a report. Victim number 8's identity is unknown. In 2002, a Penn State grad assistant, Mike McQuarrie, who is also now an assistant coach at Penn State.
He needs to be fired.
And will be on the sidelines so far. As of now, he's going to be on the sidelines against Nebraska. In March 2002, he entered the football building. He saw victim number 2 with Jerry Sandusky, estimated his age to be 10 years old, being subjected to anal intercourse by a naked Sandusky. He tells his father. The father advises him to go talk to Coach Paterno. The next morning, he calls Coach Paterno, goes to his home, reports what he's seen. The next day, Paterno calls Tim Curley, PSU's athletic director, to his home, reports a version what the grad assistant had told him. Almost a month goes by. The graduate assistant's called to a meeting with Curley and SVP for Finance and Business, Gary Schultz. The grad assistant, Mike McQuarrie, reports what he had seen, and Curley and Schultz say they will look into it. Near the end of the month of March 2002. McQuarrie hears from Curley. He said that Sandusky's locker room keys are taken away. The incidents are reported to Second Mile. The graduate assistant, Mike McQuarrie, is never questioned by university police, and no other entity conducts an investigation until the graduate assistant testifies in a grand jury hearing in December of last year. 2005 to 2006, victim number 1 says he meets Sandusky. In 2007, during the track season, he begins meeting with him weekly. In spring 2008, he quit contacting victim number 1 because he started high school. After the boy's mother calls, somehow the boy's mom found out, he calls that school at Clinton County High School to report a sexual assault, at which point in spring 2008, Sandusky is barred from the school district, and the matter is reported to authorities mandated by law. In early 2009, an investigation by the PA Attorney General begins with Clinton County, Pennsylvania. Boyd tells authorities that Sandusky had inappropriately touched him several times over a 4-year period. In September 2010, Sandusky retires from the Second Mile. And on November 5th, 2011, Sandusky is arrested, arraigned on 40 criminal counts. That is the timeline up until now of what happened. And as you sit there in your car, at work, at home, with your headphones on, maybe listening to this thing, there are probably pieces of that timeline you weren't familiar with that you're now familiar with. How can anyone in their right mind now sit back and not think that this is an isolated incident, that this is not an institutional scandal that rises to the highest level? Tracy, let me ask you something here. During this report, as I read it again, and every time I read it, I pick something else new up. Right. How many times did the police know did someone of authority know about Jerry Sandusky?
Well, there are about 4 or 5 times that the university knew. As far as your timeline, Sloaney, and no disrespect, I don't give a damn, because this goes way, way back. You're talking about hundreds of kids. If you think a pedophile just wakes up one day and all of a sudden becomes molesting kids, this has been going on for a long time. And the person to blame with this whole thing is Paterno. When he hired him, he spent 30 years as an assistant coach. He knew exactly what Sandusky was all about. So you could give your timeline, which is great. I like it. I mean, it great, kind of lays something out. But to start in 1998, it goes back to, when did you say, Sloan? 69. I bet you could find something in 70.
Yeah, here's the way to frame that, is Jerry Sandusky started Penn State in 69 as a defensive line coach. Okay? He starts the second mile in 77. So what, 8 years go by. It's not till 1994 that Jerry Sandusky also somehow develops a taste for pedophilia. I mean, do you wake up one day, did something traumatic happen in your life? I mean, what happened in 1994, 93, or the early 90s?
Oh, he got caught. He got
exactly.
caught.
That's the point.
But he has that charity, the Second Mile Charity, helping children with dysfunctional families. What a perfect opportunity for a pedophile. And he took advantage of that. And Paterno, and when I see kids last night, because I was watching CNN Live and watching them, we love you, Joe. We love you, Joe. There's kids and students crying because Joe Paterno is out as head coach. Is that a crying shame, Sloaney?
You know what it's not? It's not about Joe Paterno. It's about their precious record in the Big Ten. You're going to put a football team, you're going to put football above what happened here over a 30-year period? Are you kidding me? You're more worried about Penn State University men's football team's win-loss record and chance of going to a bowl game than you are about justice, about what is right?
Let's do this. Let's not. I'm not going to do my act today. I mean, I'm going to be real, as they would say, as my 3% would say. I'm going to be real here. What is your fascination with sports and athletic? I don't understand it. I mean, you go to the polls, you have no idea what you're voting for, but give it your best player on the Reds. Oh, geez, he hits like this. He likes to eat chicken before he goes out and plays. You know something about that? You like sports too much. There's nothing in it for you people. The players don't care. You care more than the players do. It's ridiculous. My dad told me in 1974 when the Knicks beat the Lakers and I went in my room, cried when I was like 12 years old. My dad came and said, Trace, what are you doing? I said, well, the Lakers lost. He says, what's in it for you? And yet your life is so miserable and there's nothing going on that you gravitate to these coaches, to these players, to these universities, to these stupid people. It's ridiculous. Grow up. Get a life.
I don't think it's every fan, though.
Oh, it's 95%
a percentage that are completely preoccupied, and it's way too much with sports, and there's no room for anything else. I think it's a pleasant diversion for most people. But I think we'll hear from people today that maybe Penn State alumni may have kids that go or went to Penn State University, may even have gone themselves. And I'm sure there's many people at Penn State today who also think that, and probably agree with you. I think that it's the whole worship of the sports figure and the gladiator and in a jersey. This is an example of what happens when you have that blind worship.
Well, and that's a great point, Sloaney. And I want people to go to Tracy Jones online because I got an email from the president of my fan club, and there's a video of Joe Paterno. And you want to know someone that has charisma, presence, watch that video. Go to Tracy Jones online and check it out. It's someone sent it to me. Just check that out. And you wonder why people rally behind this guy. I didn't know that much about Joe Paterno, but boy, he is a funny guy. You like him. Just check it out.
What you're saying is it's charisma. It's the charisma.
There's a lot of charisma. You wonder why people in Germany did what they did for Hitler.
Yeah, it is a sad, when you read through the timeline, it makes you wonder why this started in 94. If it hadn't been going on longer than that. Yeah. But when you fit all the pieces together, this whole thing, how many people, how many different entities knew? I mean, Penn State Police investigated it a couple times at least before the third example.
Campus police.
And if they know about this whole thing, and a school district knew about this whole thing.
How about the janitors?
The janitors are talking about this kind of stuff.
Not a secret. Wasn't a secret.
How can you not make a case that somehow Joe Paterno is so and if you know what, if you really legitimately are, Joe, so insulated from this, you don't deserve to be. You don't deserve to be
totally
in that
clueless.
Position. 513-749-7800, the big one, pound 700 AT&T. There's some new information coming out, and this is even worse than what we just read. And we'll get to that in about 4 minutes, plus your calls, just as we follow the scandal probably of the century here when it comes to sports, if not all time, what happens at Penn State University now. Sloan and Tracy, 700 WLW. Working your calls in at 513-749-7800, the big one, pound 700 AT&T, Sloan and Tracy. You know what? One other thing, final point on this timeline that we just read is, isn't it interesting? I mean, you want to talk about cover-ups at the highest levels of state investigators, police, campus police, politicians, the news media, the sports media, all that stuff, is that don't you find a little odd that this story broke about 7 months ago, that the allegations and the testimony before the grand jury was in December of 2010. All of this stuff went on during the 1990s up and through 2002. That this story broke immediately after Joe Paterno sets the Division I record for most wins as a head coach at 409. I mean, Trace, what are the odds of that? You think that's coincidental that they waited for this thing to break until after he got the record? There. Or Jerry Sandusky, for that matter, that they basically said, all right, just you will take your keys and nothing happened after that. Best case scenario is it would go away. Worst case scenario is what we're talking about here. But they waited till after Joe Pa got win number 409.
I want to see Joe Pa. I want to see him. I want to see him completely broke. And I will make this prediction. I bet you Joe Pa dies within the next 6 months.
You think?
Oh, I'm telling you, this is going to break his heart, and it should. He will die within 6 months.
The guy who broke this story 7 months ago actually has a new development, and this is, if you haven't heard or seen this yet, this is even more shocking and disgusting than what happened in the shower. This is possibly, and I hope to God the guy's wrong, but he was right about this with Sandusky 7 months ago. And if you have a weak stomach, this could be one of the times where we encourage you to maybe not listen to the show.
Because I don't believe it's so far-fetched. I don't believe it.
But would you have believed this was going on?
No.
In a locker room?
No. You never know.
That's exactly right. We'll have that for you right after news update, just about 4 minutes here. Sloaney and Tracy, 700 WLW. It's Sloaney and Tracy on 700 WLW. Just put this up on my Facebook page, at Scott Sloan. You know, Tracy and I were talking about this, whether to talk about this, but do you think Jerry Sandusky really deserves the benefit of a doubt at this point?
No.
I mean, after you
benefit
heard
of what
about what exactly. Mark Madden was the name of the guy who originally broke the story 7 months ago. So if you want to think that there wasn't some sort of cover-up going on here,
by a lot of people. A lot of people knew about it.
That Jerry Sandusky was given a deal saying, hey, listen, you go away, we won't say anything.
I mean, he was the heir apparent to Joe Paterno. I mean, did anybody question that? You think he just all of a sudden retired? Do you think he wanted the head coaching job?
I had to look this up. You know how old he is?
I'd say 65.
He retired at age 55.
Yeah.
How many head coaches retire at 50? You're just getting into prime coaching years. How old's Paterno?
He's 83.
Right. I mean, you're getting into prime coaching years by the time you're in mid-50s.
Bobby Bowden.
Coach Jones. How old's Butch? He's, late 40s, mid-40s?
Yeah.
Late 40s?
I mean, think about, Paterno's going to retire. Don't you want that head coaching job? Penn State?
There's no way you can tell me that was the deal. But here's the latest, because Madden is the guy who initially got the story. He said he reported this today. He's a talk show host out in the East, and said he's talking to two prominent sports columnists that are working the story. And I'm just going to warn you that this is even more shocking than the allegations of what happened in the shower. Just so you can be prepared, or maybe choose to turn your radio off. Is that he is saying that he's hearing rumors from these sources that another shoe could drop, not going to, could drop, that Sandusky may have been pimping out these boys to wealthy donors to his Second Mile charity. Let me say that again. Prostituting 10, 12-year-old boys to rich donors to the Second Mile charity.
Hope not.
I hope not either. I hope that's just a rumor, but I mean, if you would have said, a couple weeks ago that this stuff happened on the campus of Penn State?
You would have never believed
Never
it.
believed it.
In the shower.
That is...
See what happens. It's going to go on and on. That Penn State better settle some lawsuits.
Let's before I work your calls, and let's go out to a friend of ours. His name is Kevin Nelson, and he is basically the Jim Scott of State College, Pennsylvania, at WSRC AM and FM. Kevin, how are you?
Very good. How are you?
Probably better than you are. I'm sure you're inundated with requests and people to talk, but I appreciate you joining us here in Cincinnati on the Sloan and Tracy Show. As far as the, can you give us a perspective out here in Ohio, in Southwest Ohio, the mentality, the collectiveness, and the institution that is Penn State and Joe Paterno?
Well, this is a small-town area, and Penn State's actually the largest employer that we have, so that either you're going to Penn State or you work for Penn State or you're related to Penn State in one way or another. It's also a very rural community. And it has just been, as you might imagine, the most shocking news we've had in quite some time. In fact, while waiting for you to have me join you on the air, I was hearing some of what you're talking about, and you're much better informed than we are. I'm hoping that some of those rumors that you were just talking about are not true.
I hope to God they're not. I really, really do. I mean, I hope that is wrong, and that is just wild speculation, but, the people that are talking about this and working on it are the same ones that developed this thing 7 months ago.
Kevin, let me ask you, being a small city, what were the rumors about Sandusky? I mean, did this catch a lot of people off guard?
There were rumblings, I will say, not that anybody really knew anything, it seems, now that we're hearing what actually happened, but that there might have been touchy-feely, something like that. When the allegations finally came out, we read the 23-page report from the Attorney General. Everybody was shocked. You've got to understand that because it's a small area, Joe Paterno is really thought of as a legend. I mean, we throw that around a lot, but at the same time, he's very accessible. He lives a block or two from campus. If you're walking across campus, it is not uncommon to run into him. You might see him downtown doing some shopping. He'll take the time to talk to you, so that it's just hard to imagine this for most of us in this area, and for him to be fired like that in such a well, really, it doesn't appear there are any grown-ups at Penn State right now. I guess you saw the news conference last night with the Board of Trustees. And here you have a man that we have thought of as a legend. He has given millions. The library is in his name. There's a big statue in his honor right outside the stadium. And then here are a bunch of people that frankly make Forrest Gump look like Albert Einstein, and they're stumbling through a news conference. The one guy keeps looking at his watch like he's got somewhere to be. They finally get around to mentioning that Joe Paterno has been fired over the telephone. They couldn't even bother to do it to his face. And while he's doing that, some of the other trustees are laughing. I mean, there are frat parties that are handled with more maturity than that news conference was handled last night. So this morning on the program, there were people that were somewhat upset by that. And the details of the case. We find out today that Mike McQueary is going to be coaching this weekend. Well, if you're going to fire Joe Paterno over the phone, how is this guy going to be coaching?
Yeah, and clearly in this case, Kevin, that you've got a really clean house of anyone who even has I don't even say a fingerprint, but even has breathed on this entire case at this point. You got a clear house, and you got to rebuild from scratch. Hang on just a second, if you would, Kevin.
Sure.
Nelson of WRSC AM and FM, State College, Pennsylvania. Get the inside scoop from what's happening in Happy Valley, or maybe not so Happy Valley today. Let's find out how the drive home is going first, though. And Brian Pitts.
Hey, northbound 75, you've got some heavy traffic between Mitchell and Paddock. Then again, from Glendale, Milford to 275. Southbound is pretty slow between Reagan and Paddock. 71 northbound, that's still in pretty good shape from downtown up to 275. Starting to build up at the Pfeiffer Merge, and Dalton Street is shut down for an accident between Lynn and Carr. Brian Pitts with traffic, 700 WC.
All right, your forecast now from Fox 19. We have cloudy skies rolling in, flurries possible tonight, down to 29. Tomorrow, sunny, cold, only up to 49. We're at 44 right now. Some peaks of sun, 700 WLW. Sloan and Tracy Kevin Nelson is the Jim Scott of State College, Pennsylvania at WRSC AM and FM. Joins us now. If you've never been to State College, Happy Valley as it's called, I mean, it really is insulated. I remember going there when I was in Toledo and working with the University of Toledo, and the football team went there in, I don't know, about 2000, Kevin. Upset Joe Pa in the Nittany Lions that day. And I remember driving going, where the hell is this place? Usually college campuses are like, Oxford's, about a half hour outside Cincinnati, the University of Cincinnati, Ohio State, all of those are close, but you really are in the middle of nowhere out there, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way.
No, not at all. And actually, we like it and we hate it at the same time. The roads are much better now. It's much easier to get in and out of here. But I think that's part of the reason that these folks are not as good at playing with others sometimes. They are so used to living in their own world, and I'm talking about the folks that run the university, that I'm not even sure they understand how poorly they are handling this.
Yeah. Kevin, can I give you a heads up, buddy?
Sure.
Talk to some friends in Florida, in California, in Texas. People are fuming. I am going to tell you right now, you're going to get the death penalty. You people in Penn State, you need to worry about, because I think you're going to lose your program.
Well, there has even been some talk, depending on how bad these settlements are, how many settlements there are, how much the money is, how much the donations are down. This could be a crippling blow, not just to the sports program, but to the entire university.
Yeah, but there's also talk about the death penalty. I mean, think going back to SMU in 85 and 86 had the death penalty for some stupid recruiting violation.
Yeah,
this is really a big deal.
This is much more serious. On that point, Kevin, it seems from the outside here looking in, like you said, you kind of alluded to the fact that you're in a bubble there and isolated from the rest of the world. But it seems to me that a lot of people at Penn State, the student body, administrators, that there is a willful suspension of disbelief there, in that people may have seen stuff or they just don't believe or want to believe, because Joe Pa has done so much and given back so much and means so much that anything like this could possibly happen there. Would you agree?
Well, yes, until, of course, the Attorney General and the 23-page report came out, and that's where the shock began. Obviously, there was something very, very wrong going on up here, and I'm afraid that, as you were saying on your show earlier, that this just may be the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, and Kevin, shame on the students, those 2,000 students last night. I was watching on CNN. Obviously, they didn't read the 23-page report. And I think they're going to look back at it 10 years and, boy, I did something really stupid.
What is the reaction? Because I'm sure you talked on your show and maybe spoke with some people. I mean, why riot over? That's what leaves us with our jaw open right now.
Well, there's no excuse for that, certainly. But if you go back to the earlier comments about the horrible way the thing was handled, they make an announcement at 10 o'clock at night, and all day long, the students had been rallying all over Penn State showing support for Joe Paterno, and they had read the damn indictment, to tell you the truth, but you've got to imagine just how much this man is loved, and this was not going to go over well with the students. They handled the thing poorly. They're giggling while they're announcing it, and it's 10 o'clock at night, so that if you're the trustees, what did you think was going to happen?
Wow.
They have done stuff like that during arts festivals. They've gone downtown and caused some trouble after big wins. It's not the first time that there's been misbehavior downtown, and certainly a percentage of that was, let's just go have some fun and break some stuff. But these students were highly emotionally charged, and they make an announcement like that at 10 o'clock at night. Duh.
Yeah. All right. Hey, Kevin, I appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Kevin
Kev.
Nelson out in State College. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care. There you go. He's a nice guy.
I can't wait till Sandusky goes to prison. You're talking about bending you over in the shower.
Oh, he's going to. How long you think he's going to last in the joint? He's going to have to. He'll have to go into protective custody. There's
I
no
bet
way.
you he'll be a smelly celly, if you know what I mean.
We'll work your calls in at 513-749-7000, 800 the big one, pound 700 AT&T. We'll get to Carrie in Mason first. She works with sexually abused kids. We'll get her take on it too. Plus the outrage and reaction, not only to what's transpired, or maybe the lack of even like the littlest ability when it comes to public relations at Penn State, but the new allegations that Sandusky may have done much worse in actually pimping some of these boys out to his most rich donors at his charity. Sad and hopefully not true. Sloan and Tracy, 700 WLW. Sloan and Tracy, 700 WLW. So we talked to Kevin Nelson about the willful suspension of disbelief in Penn State because he's out in State College. Mm-hmm. and says that, yeah, it's because Happy Valley, literally, it's a valley that's in the middle of nowhere. State colleges, and so you're not around big cities, and you kind of. I'm sure if you're Joe Paterno and if you're in the administration, athletic department at Penn State, you probably get to run the town. You know what I mean?
Oh, without a doubt.
Because it's a small
they control
college
everything,
town, right? That whole thing. So that kind of makes sense. And maybe this will give you some perspective on the students that rioted, and the reaction is: we just had a lady call Paul and read him the riot act off the air that. Wanted to know basically why we were talking about this. She identified herself as a Penn State graduate, and she was angry that we were talking about this.
Yeah, because we talk about the same thing. It's tragic. Move on. You haven't added anything.
What about the pimping out boys to donors?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. Julie, I think her name was Julie. Julie, we're going to talk about Penn State. We're going to talk about Paterno. And you know what? There's not a damn thing you can do about it. And we're going to talk about it today for the next 2 hours and 7 minutes. And you know what, Sloaney? I'm going to make a call.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it for 3 hours tomorrow. And you know what, Sloaney?
What?
There's not a damn thing you can do about it.
You know what?
What?
We may talk about this Monday.
I'm fine.
You know what?
What?
There's not a damn thing you can do about it.
I want to talk about it, though.
No, so do I.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Okay. What about Julie?
That biatch.
At 513
205, Julie, by the way.
7,800, the big one, pound 700, AT&T, free call for you. Carrie and Mason, you work with sexually abused kids, do you?
I work with sexually abused kids, and I work with kids with other issues as well. But I will tell Julie why we're talking about this, and I'm glad we're talking about this because this happens every day. Small towns, big towns, campuses, schools, adults find out that other adults are being touchy-feely. Is that what the guy from Penn State who we were just speaking to said?
Yeah, well, beyond touchy-feely. Yeah.
Well, that's what he said people had, the rumor about him was. So if there's a rumor about you that you're touchy-feely, how would you feel about that? You'd be embarrassed.
Keep your hands off kids.
Exactly.
You know what, Carrie? Let me just say that in coaching football, baseball, all that stuff, coach for years, I keep my hands off the kid. I don't even give him a tap on the butt. I mean, that's how bad it is for me.
Well, and my husband coaches, and he won't stay on a field by himself with a child waiting for a parent.
Good point.
Can't do it. When I was a few years ago, when I was involved in scouting, we actually had to go through a 2-day training session. And the rule hasn't been that way for a while. Is that in an organization like that, you actually have to have 2 leaders in a room anytime there's a kid in there, and the doors have to be open.
Yes, and I think that the main reason I want you to talk about it for the next 2 hours and however many minutes you have left is because other adults need to realize when an adult is doing this to a child, someone has to stand up for that child.
Yeah.
It will continue to be an epidemic and a problem in this country because we expected those 8-year-olds to stand up to a coach at a humongous state university that's on TV every weekend. No, it is the adult who is sitting there who someone is saying, hey, I just walked into the shower and saw this man doing this to this child. All of the adults who heard about this over the past year should have said something. And the only reason Joe, whatever his name, didn't say anything is because he didn't have the balls to put his job on the line.
Oh, outstanding comments, Carrie. That was the best. That was the best call that we've had in a month, 125.
All right, talking about it.
All right, thanks. Appreciate
All right,
it, Carrie.
bye.
And can we, maybe not today, but where we start to make fun and joke, let's talk about you being a scout leader. Maybe not, when we go back to joking around. Can we talk about that?
Be careful.
Scout leader. Really?
Sloan and Tracy, home of the best. I was assistant. Home of the best Bengals coverage. Coming up at 4:04. We'll talk to a student who, according to his Facebook page, actually participated or was at the riots last night in State College, Pennsylvania. We'll get his take. What motivates a person who is a sophomore in college at a Big Ten school to go out and riot in the streets?
40-ouncer.
Sloan and Tracy, 700 WL. Sloan and Tracy here, 700 WLW. Following the very latest here with Joe Paterno, and it's Joe Paterno because he's the figurehead of this whole thing, but there's so many different other levels here. And the story we're getting now is that there's maybe another shoe that's going to drop that's even worse than the original, involving that Jerry Sandusky may have allegedly used the Second Mile Foundation, believe it or not, as disgusting as this may sound, basically as a a way to pimp boys out to donors. I mean, it's just
refuse to believe that.
Yeah, I do too. I really don't want to believe that. But if you a couple weeks ago would have said, what do you think about Penn State? Certainly you wouldn't believe any of this either.
You know what I find crazy about this story, that this didn't break earlier, and I start thinking about it during the news. The reason people didn't find out about it going back years ago is because they have a winning program. Yeah. And because their head coach is a legend. That's the only reason. Well, if they had a losing program, this would have got out a long time ago.
It's protecting the institution. If you saw, and we got the video on the blog at 700WLW.com of the riots last night. One of the students actually was putting some of the pictures up on Facebook. Paulie got a hold of him. His name is Justin Roberts. I believe he's a sophomore at Penn State University. Justin, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
We're good here. First of all, was it a riot yesterday, what we saw on TV?
I guess you could call it that. We're angry with the way this situation is playing out with Joe Pa and the way that people like you in the media are treating this situation.
Well, how are we treating it?
Well, this isn't about Joe Pa, okay? He's great. And for you guys to come out here and trash him, and for the news media to be around campus, and everybody's looking for him to get fired, he had nothing to do with this.
Sure he did, Justin. Sure you did. I think 10 years you'll look back and be very ashamed and embarrassed that you were rioting last night.
Did you read the timeline? We just read the timeline not too long ago on the air. Are you familiar with the order of how things went down?
Yeah, I know what Jerry Sandusky did. Jerry Sandusky is not a part of Penn State.
Sure he was.
Absolutely was.
No.
Yeah, he was. He has keys to the field house. He has keys to every room on campus. He can come and go as he please. He even had an office at Penn State. So he most certainly is part of the staff.
Justin, don't you think Paterno had the moral obligation to go to the police and report Sandusky when he knew about it back in, 1998?
He did what he thought was the best interest for Penn State.
Exactly.
Well, how about the kids?
Exactly. Not doing what's right, but doing what's in the best interest of Penn State. So we agree.
You guys don't understand what's going on here.
Well, explain it to us. So far, you do a poor job.
There's so many people that are involved in this. And for everybody to jump on Joe Pa, I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, it's not everybody jumping on Joe Pa. There's, four people?
Are you kidding me?
No. There's 4 people. There's also the university president. There's also 2 administration officials. There's Joe Pa, and probably McQueary's going to go, too. That's going to be 5 people.
This is a man that gave his life to this university. This is a man that spent every waking minute thinking about Penn State. He was going to quit at the end of the year. We have a chance to win the Big Ten championship this year. He could have went out on top.
Hey, Justin, I was watching CNN last night. What do you look like?
Don't worry about it.
No, because I question it. You weren't one of those little biatches that were crying, "Oh, poor Joe, bring Joe back." Were you one of those biatches?
I was one of the guys that's getting stuff done and flipping over that news van.
Yeah, we love Joe. We love Joe. I heard that, Shan.
Absolutely.
Why would you destroy property in Happy Valley? What does that do exactly, Justin?
It gets the point out there that we're pissed about this.
Just about what?
Right, why would
Everybody's upset about it.
What did that whatever TV station it was, the van that got flipped over, the light poles, the broken windows? What does that got to do with Joe Pa? How does that help your argument? Makes you look shallow, stupid, and quite honestly infantile.
All these media people like you and like the news stations that are coming out here, they don't care about the kids either. All they care about is that Joe Pa is going down, and they'd love to see a hero getting destroyed. And when we see these news vans, and it's a symbol that we're turning over the media. It's not about them.
What is this? Occupy Penn State?
Justin, were you one of the guys? Were you one of the guys that when you went to Paterno's house and he kind of came out and talked to the kids? Were you one of those?
I was there. Yeah. I wasn't in the front, but I was there to see Joe Pa. I was glad that I got to see him.
What do you think this actually is going to do, Justin? What your protest, the threatening the media? What's that do?
Well, we hope that it shows that this isn't about him. This isn't about Joe Pa. It's about a sick individual that happened to work at the school but wasn't Penn State. There's no reason that we need to crucify Joe Pa.
All right, hang on just a second. It's Justin Roberts at Penn State, one of the protesters last night. Let's get to traffic and weather, though, real quick here. Brian Pitts, how we looking?
Hey, northbound 75 is slow from downtown to Ezra Charles. Broken down in the center lane there has been moved over to the shoulder, and then it's heavy from the lateral to Paddock, and then Glendale Milford to 275. Southbound slows through the Laughlin split, and then from Ezra Charles through the cut in the hill. Northbound 71, you've got delays between Montgomery and Pfeiffer. There's an accident westbound Fort Washington way on the ramp to the Brent Spence. It's over on the right shoulder. Southbound 471, pretty jammed up now from Southgate to 275, and Dalton still shut down between Lynn and Carr. Brian Pitts with traffic, 700 WLW.
As far as the forecast goes, we could see a early sprinkle, maybe even a flurry, too. It's going to get that cold, partly cloudy later overnight, 29 the low. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, 49, clear, 36, heading to the weekend tomorrow night. Right now, 43. This is 700 WLW. Scott Sloan and Tracy Jones. His name is Justin Roberts, at Justin Roberts on Facebook. He is one of the people, one of the thousands who participated in the riots last night to protest the decision to get rid of Joe Pa.
Justin, let me ask you this question, okay? Do you think Penn State should let Joe Pa coach against Nebraska this Saturday?
Absolutely.
You're kidding me.
Why not? Give me one good reason why.
Well, I'll give you about 20, and that's the allegation standing against former Coach Sandusky. If you go back to
against Sandusky,
all right,
not against Joe
Okay,
Pa.
well, listen now, Justin. If you go back to now, he started the program back. He started this thing in '77, the second mile. He'd been there since I think '67. If you go back and look at the timeline, back in 1998. There was a very serious allegation involving University police that listened to a phone call, and they heard then Jerry Sandusky say, "I wish I were dead," in regards to what he did to a boy. The DA there said, well, you know what? We're going to punish him. There's no formal charges are going to be filed. Certainly Joe Pa knew about that. Joe Pa knew in 2000 that another incident occurred. In 2002, when he heard about this, he didn't think it was that big a deal. Don't you think, Justin, that if the university police are involved in the first instance, and then there's a janitor testifying that said something happened in 2000, and then in 2002 something like this happens with McQuarrie, don't you think, man, we got a problem with this guy? Doesn't common sense, Justin, kick in and go, this guy really needs to be behind bars and get some help?
Yeah, Sandusky is a dirtbag. I agree with you on that.
But I'm talking about Joe Pa. If this is not the first time this happened with Jerry Sandusky, it was the third time.
Look, and I'll even go back. And wait a minute. Hold on. Sandusky coached with Joe Paterno for 30 years. All of a sudden, you just wake up and become a child molester, in 1998. He knew about this going way, way back.
Now, that's just there's no way that you can say that.
Absolutely, I can say that.
We just presented the evidence as to why we could say that.
How dare you say that Joe Pa would do things like that, that he would turn a blind eye? Without a shadow of a doubt, I know.
No, how dare you? No, how dare you? I'm not going to take this crap from you, some punky student. What if that was your kid? You know, when you grow up and grow a pair, then you'll know what it's like. What if your kid was molested like that, a 10-year-old boy? What would you do?
Joe Pa didn't molest anybody.
He was responsible. He should have turned in Sandusky years ago.
It was his
program.
He
knew about
He's
it.
responsible.
He's the
the figurehead. You surround yourself with yes men that do your bidding for you. You're going to have to take the fall. Justin, what's your major?
Don't worry. I'm not going
to answer. Is that a tough question?
Right,
answer.
Let's say it's international affairs. What's happening in Italy right now? What's going to happen with the president of it? It's a president, Tracy?
Yeah.
Berlusconi. What's going to happen with him?
What about the debt crisis there?
What's going to happen?
Italy?
You know what's going to happen with him? He's going to have to resign because of what's going on, and it didn't involve sex with little kids. You know why? Because he is the head of that country, much like Joe Pa is the head of that program. That's why he has to go. It's an issue of propriety, Justin. I pray to God you don't have any brothers or sisters, do you?
What's so funny about that?
You got two brothers? What if they were the ones molested? Would you be standing up for Joe Pa then? You're going to put Joe Pa's broken old ass above what's right between God and not only that, the law of the United States of America? Are you kidding me?
There's no way that I would
believe
that Joe Pa would do anything bad.
I'm done.
What do you mean? How do you know that? He knew what was going on.
It's the
third time. Because
he said that.
Timeline.
He said that he knew about it. He went to the athletic director. What don't you understand?
He went to the athletic director. That's not up to him anymore. He did what he thought he needed to do.
He had the moral obligation to go to the police.
Moral obligation.
Wouldn't you do that? If you saw a kid being molested in the shower, what would you do? Would you not go to the police? Are you too gutless to do that, Justin?
I would go to my superior officer, whoever that was.
You go to the police. You're missing the point.
When McQuarrie complained, talked to Joe Pa, they had, I think, 3 meetings after that. He was never contacted by the university police. Never contacted. That is because I think it was Schultz. I think that was the guy that was the head doing the investigation. Also, was in charge of university police. Don't you think something weird to be going? If you saw a grown man having sex in the shower with a 10-year-old boy, and you witnessed that, you mean to tell me it's Joe? You know what? I really can't.
Didn't he wait like 4 days before he came forward to talk about anything?
Who is that? The 10-year-old? That 10-year-old boy?
Yeah, the mom. Hey, Justin, where are you living?
I'm living in State College.
State College. You ever make it to Cincinnati?
I've been there, yeah.
Okay, you ever make it to Cincinnati? Look me up because I've got a 20-year-old son that would like to beat your ass.
Oh, my God.
You're a punk.
Whatever. This is absolutely ridiculous. I still don't understand why you guys keep bringing this up about Joe Pa. He did not molest these kids.
But it happened on his watch. He is the head in the face of Penn State football. It doesn't matter if you're there or not there. You're complicit in the whole thing because you because you didn't step forward. Not only, I'm not even getting the moral thing, but legally, I think there's an issue there too because you know there's an abuse of a child, and you said nothing. You turned a blind eye towards it. You didn't force Sandusky to get any help or even call law enforcement. That's an atrocity.
It's just as bad as Sandusky.
It's not as big of an atrocity as him not being able to finish this year. He said,
if you guys are 1-10, would you still feel that way?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I bet you would.
So the football game is more important, is what you're saying.
Joe Pa is more important.
You're going to get your ass kicked by Nebraska.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
All right, Justin, we got to go. But, hey, listen, we appreciate you manning up and joining us. So.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, well, then the hell with you, too.
I'm sorry to get so riled up over something
Me too.
like
I mean,
that.
how could you not get emotional? It's like, okay, you just
heard
hero
worshiping.
You just heard Justin Roberts, one of the 1,500 riders?
I'd say
yesterday?
2,000. There were a lot.
Are you convinced, if you weren't convinced before, that the worship of Joe Pa, that as a god, as a deity, worshiping every Saturday in the fall at Beaver Stadium, that Penn State University is nothing more than a cult, a state-funded cult?
And Justin's buying in. He's drinking the Kool-Aid.
513-749-7800, the big one, pound 700 AT&T.